Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to get another video going. One thing I just want to point out is that I am sitting on the floor. I know it's a bit awkward, but as you can see, I've recorded so many videos that I thought this time I'd just give it a shot and try something different. Maybe, I lived in South Korea for so long that sitting on the floor is something that doesn't really bother me. And here we go. So today we're going to continue on with the theme about creating value. And in our last lecture, we talked about how creating value is more about, adding benefits. But one thing to think about is that we're not always having to add benefits. But before we get there, I just want to do a really short, quick review of those 4 benefits we talked about. They were economic, functional, social, and experiential. And so those are the 4 benefits you can add to, increase your product's appeal to your customer. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to identify the need a consumer is trying to fulfill when purchasing a product. Today, we're going to be talking about the opposite of benefits. So those are costs. And one thing to think about is sometimes instead of adding more benefits, you can be reducing the costs to improve the product. And what I mean by that is that we always have this mentality that more is good, but a lot of times less is more. So instead of just adding more and our products get bigger and bigger and bigger and just kind of take up more space, to be honest, we can start cutting things out that will actually make our products more appealing to the consumer's needs and wants. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what we're going to get into is how Uber did this to the taxi marketplace. So when Uber came in, before Uber, there were only basically taxis. Yeah, New York City, maybe Chicago, a couple places like that in the US. But for the most part, if you want to get a taxi in America, you had to pick up the phone, call a taxi service that was generally near the airport. They'd come, they'd pick you up, and that whole process came. But Uber came in and completely changed that. And instead of making things better through benefits, they actually came in, they just started cutting tons of costs. And that's how they became such a disruptor in the marketplace. So extreme that places like New York City and there were other international countries that were going after them and actually trying to block them and take them to court and saying what they were doing was unfair. And so we're going to break down these 4 costs that Uber was able to use to their advantage to make their products superior to the competition. And those 4 costs are economic, time, psychological, and energy. So now we're going to talk about how Uber fits into these 4 different categories to improve their product and make it more superior than their competitors. So economic first in general, and Uber is cheaper, in my opinion, than taking the previous one where you had to call and they come to your house and this whole different setup. It feels cheaper. We're not in overall. And then when we talk about time, I no longer have to pick up the phone, call, wait for them to come to my house, maybe make a reservation for them to come. Or if you're in a big city, I don't have to stand on the street and try to wave one down. It's super easy. I just open my app, I see the Uber moving around, I click the Uber, it's at my house in 2 to 3 minutes, and boom, I'm gone. Obviously, peak times might be a little bit different, but in general, if you live in a metropolitan area, getting an Uber is so much more convenient than doing the other previous taxi situation. A psychological cost for me personally, every time I ride the Uber, I feel not uncomfortable. But when I ride a taxi, I feel like, oh, don't touch anything, wash my hands when I get out, oh my gosh, this is disgusting. An Uber driver owns their car, so they have that pride in what they're doing. You get some sweets, maybe some candy, gum. Sometimes they even have alcohol to sell in there, which is obviously illegal, but the idea is it's just less stressful. And the last one, to me personally, energy. I don't have to pick up the phone. I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't have to do anything annoying. Going to my app, there's no communication, just so much easier. And it's something that I enjoy. It doesn't add stress. And that's why I think, in general, why people take Ubers instead of drinking and driving like they used to in the past, because it's just less energy. And what I want to sum this all up with, though, is that again, more is not always better, but basically one thing I want you to think about is a word that's kind of trending nowadays is minimalism. I think of brands like Apple, they were kind of the starters of this minimalism idea. And what I mean by that is their quality is fantastic, but the products themselves are very simplistic. They're very easy to use. They're not clunky, they're not overflowing with benefits. Uber is very similar. It's very easy to use, but the quality doesn't mean it's poor. And so sometimes we get in this mentality where We want to, decrease the cost, and so we lower the quality. The idea is to decrease the cost but increase the quality, or make it stay the same. And you have to find out where that is so that your customers stay with you long term and you become a successful company and continue to be a successful company going in the future. The sum of this whole entire lesson here we talked about today is basically based on this. Market research is the backbone of every single successful company. If you have good research and you understand your customers' wants, needs, desires, and maybe even fears, you can produce the perfect product for them. Because you always have to remember, customers are buying a solution. And what I mean by that is people buy cars for transportation, image, and freedom. Those are the three things that they're buying their car for. And so hopefully by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to identify the need a consumer is trying to fulfill when purchasing a product. Thanks so much for coming to today's class. There is another video after this you can check out. But I'm really happy. I hope you enjoyed this, sort of new way, sitting down, focusing on Uber type of video that we had today. Thanks so much, and we'll see you again